I was born in a very conservative Catholic family in Italy. And so my childhood was very much subjected to the authority of my father. And I didn't dare to go against his will. The rebellion years started in the college. And I said rebellion because if you want to find your way, probably you have to detach from whatever it is already there, prepared for you. And take a risk, and not knowing also where to proceed to. So during the college, it was during the 70s, 78, when all the student movements in Europe started. And so there was a lot of turmoil. We young people were against many rules and impositions from the bourgeois society and the values which were inculcated in us, which were appearing to us just to be behind money and career, social discrimination. So we wanted a revival of other values which were being accounted by the Western society of those particular period. So at that point, of course, there was calls from other cultures where we found that more spiritual, more interiorized values, more wisdom of interpretation of life, a different way of live life could inspire us. So those were the time in which the Eastern philosophy, the Eastern thought, ancient Chinese philosophy, yin and yang, the Tao, ancient Zen Buddhism, ancient Indian mythology, philosophy, came to us through books, and we started to see those places as pilgrimages. And so a different way of seeing life started to enter into our mind. And we started to give importance to the present, to all whatever it was happening around, as sign of certain synchronicity, of sign of connection with the micro and microcosmos, recollect with the nature, give importance to the present, not always to the achievement of what it can be later on, but to give the importance to the now, the individual as part of the cosmos. So it was a different attitude, a different way of related to the daily life. So it was a kind of wisdom which was coming from the East. So this is what, in those years of rebellion, which of course were also including the feminist movement, the student revolution, the occupancy in the colleges against the rules which was imposed on us. So also the experience with drugs. So these were all part of a breakout that we wanted to experience. We wanted to experience our own life, not the one which was imposed on us. So I was part of all this, and it was this continuous search, which I didn't, of course, like many of us, we didn't know where it would bring us, but it was a need, an urge, which we couldn't escape from. I got into a professional theater company, which I was not having been properly trained, but I immediately got to have a experience with them. And through this theater, I started to do different workshops with different directors and to work on a stilt, to work on my body, to do acrobatic, but we didn't have a grammar behind to follow. So we were just experimenting, improvising. A lot of improvisation was there. doing exercise, improvising, respond to the stimulus which our leaders would give us, but without having a grammar. So these two parallel routes were there, these paths, two parallel paths. On one side, I was researching a philosophy of life, spirituality of life, and on the other side, this physicality, this expression through the body, researching for a grammar of the body. So these were going parallel. At this point, I saw, when I was doing theater, this kind of physical theater, I saw one Kathakali performance. So this Kathakali performance was presented by a guru from Kerala, bare body. He came to my own town, Bergamo, and he demonstrated the meaning of each gesture that he was doing, each muscle of the body, of the facial, of the face, of the movement of the fingers. He was giving the names, he was expressing, he was saying this is for expressing love, this is for expressing love, this ladder, mirth, and this was expressing anger, and this was expressing this disgust. So, and he was changing his faces and doing the mudras. And for me, it was a revelation because we were searching for a way of expressing through the body, and I understood that there was a full systematic grammar which this guru was telling us. So it was a big discovery for me to know that there was this so systematic way of using the body in India. And in that particular case, it was Kathakali from Kerala. So I had reached a point in which my research had reached, it was a little bit I didn't know how to proceed. And for me, this was a revelation. So I asked if I could learn anything of it. So for the time being, my question was only to include, to be able to learn some of this movement and to including in my theater work, in my experimental theater work. So I came to Kerala the first time in 78. So my aim was still only quite technical. I wanted just to learn some movement and to include it in my work. In fact, I had a myth with me, a myth of Echo and Narcissus, a beautiful myth from the Greek mythology, and I wanted to put that as a play. So for that, I thought I'll be staying 6 months and go back. So then what happened when I came this time in 1979, and I'm still here, so now are 42 years. I never went back. So I never went back. Everything disappeared, the theater, Italy, Kerala, and I remained here. What happened was that what had remained separated, the two lines, the two parts which are separated in the West, here they got together. So the mind and the body found one expression which was involving both. So when I was learning the way of expressing through my body, I was expressing certain content which had philosophical background. And so before, it was not only a technical rendition or a movement which I was representing or a physical movement, but I needed to research behind to go to the core of this. So if I was presenting an Ashtapadi or a song from the Gita Govinda, I had to understand behind all the symbolism, all the relationship, Atma, Paramatma, the Vaishnavism, the symbol which this represent. And so my philosophical bent, my research in the philosophy, in the symbols, in the meaning behind was satisfied in a way, and my mind was involved in what I was doing physically. So it was to learn a technique, but at the same time also to learn what was behind. And this is what, for which it was impossible to move, because you could not extract one gesture from the context. At that point, it was a starting point, and that search for which I was so Besto. I was so anxious and always searching here and there, never satisfied of anything. That phase of my life finishing, and it was a new beginning. So this new beginning will never end because the search is always continuous. The wish to learn, to understand, that it will continue forever because you never go to the bottom of the culture. But that particular synthesis, that happened here with this culture, it worked. And eventually, that particular myth, for which I had come to India, and I wanted to put up as a play, it didn't happen as a play, but it happened after 5 years, after 6 years, in 85. I was already here since six years. And it became a dance choreography, which I did in Chow dance, because I learned both Odissi and Chow, based on that Greek myth, which I transformed into a dance composition, utilizing a computerized music. So now Iko is in the play, in the myth, Iko is just a girl who falls in love with Narcissus. Narcissus is very beautiful and he doesn't respond to her love. And so he is cursed to fall in love with himself when he sees himself in the water. And Iko becomes only voice, which cannot talk fast, but can only reply after as a rebound when somebody else talks. This is the myth. So I use Iko as electronic music, vibrations, and Narcissus as the dance in Chow. So this was an experiment which was very innovative in 85, and I think it opened up the possibility to utilize the Chow technique, especially in a context which is different from their traditional context, but utilizing the technique and amplifying the technique. So, but just to say that things which have to happen, that also was a synthesis of many things, because I had, in my thesis, I had done a thesis on Carl Gustav Jung, psychoanalysis. So in interpreting the myth, I utilize also the interpretation of the psychoanalysis. So it converged my previous interest with my new acquisition in the dance form. So it was again a synthesis of things. So this is what it is important, and one has to have faith in what life is, where life is pushing. I really didn't know, staying here for so many years, what would happen, where I would reach. I was just merging myself in this. And eventually all these things had a ending, in a sense that this Greek myth also, which was supposed to be done in a certain way, at a certain point, matured and became whatever it had to be at that point, which was an expression of my past and present combined. So from that time onward, I continue my training, of course. That was my first experiment, other experiment. But whenever I compose something, there is always a merging of whatever I was before and whatever I acquire here. So it's always this synthesis, which is what it's according to me, it's important. And this is, if this, it's going to be an inspiration for any of you or any of the people who can come to know about this, that would be my greatest achievement. All these years which I've been here, very strangely, I never had a doubt that maybe I could have been in another place, or maybe I missed something somewhere else. Somehow that never came to me, even if I didn't know where I would reach and who would at a certain point take care of me. So, so this is the, so if this is, can be called avant-garde, I don't know, when the topic of the TEDx was given to me, I've always been quite reluctant to say that I was the first one to do this or that, because I always think that we are just continuing always a long legacy, and it is impossible to know who is the first to do anything. So I don't consider to be an avant-garde as being the first one. But if it is inspiring somebody, whatever it can, if it can be inspiring and give the aim and the meaning and the courage to somebody else to do, then I think we can call it an avant-garde. So I think I would finish like this.